in the county of Nairobi without a governor, without a deputy. What is going on? You know, since the election of the first African mayor, the late Charles Rubia in 1962, has Nairobi ever been in this state of affairs? Charles Rubia must be turning in his grave and things going on. Lakini tukatafuta kijana mwenzangu, Jonathan Mueke, kijana mzuri akuja tueleze kinaga ubaga. What is going on katika City Hall? Who is running it? Who is running the asylum? Sasa, Governor. You can't make it up. We don't have a governor. We don't have a...
You know, TG, we are laughing, but this is not a laughing matter. It's a crisis. First of all, let's, just to be fair, what constitutes a functional city? Yeah, I think it's a city, one, where there is order. Number two, where infrastructure works. So how are the roads? How is the transport system? How is their housing? It's a city that is clean. It's a city where people can find the commodities they need. Can they find food? Can they find toothpaste? Can they find paraffin? And that's what constitutes a functional city. And when we are looking at the state of affairs of Nairobi today, we have to ask ourselves, is our city functional? And if it's not, why?
So my question right now, after the court action, removing the governor from office, till his case is heard and determined, and there is no resolution as to his belated appointment of a deputy governor. You've been there. How is it running? Who is signing the checks? Who is...
Nairobi is leaderless. We should have a governor, a deputy governor, a county secretary, a fully functional and established county executive committee with 10 members and chief officers. Nairobi right now doesn't have a governor. Well, it has a governor, sorry, there's no vacancy. It has a governor, but the courts have asked the governor not to work. So it doesn't have a working governor. There's no deputy governor. The county secretary, who should be the administrator of the county, is acting, so they can only do so much. Out of the county executive committee, if my memory serves me right, there's probably only 6 out of the 10. And out of the chief officers, there's probably only half who are substantial. So there is no leadership in Nairobi.
So Jonathan, I'm looking you in the eye. Who is writing the check? I mean, you know, you can't board a plane without a captain.
Yes.
If you look at the cockpit, you see there's nobody. Would you board?
Yes. Well, you know, you saw the Nairobi MPs led by Senator Sakaja had a press conference the other day, and they said Nairobi is on autopilot. It means there is no pilot. Our constitution, Article 179, 2A, says that the sole decision-making organ of a county is the county executive committee. The county executive committee cannot sit without a governor or a deputy governor. So as we are speaking right now, TG, there's no decision that can be made at Nairobi County. So it's on autopilot. So
if you are looking at Kenyans today and you would give urgent advice, you know, tumekuja kwa hospitali, wewe ndio daktari, umepima, umeona kweli kuna shida. Sasa wewe ungesema nini tufanye? Kwa sababu ni Senate, ni government ya Uhuru, ni nani ataingilia? What next? What happens?
Mimi ningesema kama mimi ndio nilikuwa na hiyo kipawa na hiyo nguvu, ningesema tuende kotini, tuambie judge aruhusu governor wa Nairobi amteule deputy governor. Ndio kama governor ako nje, deputy governor aanze kufanya kazi. Hiyo ndio ningesema. Lakini sasa hii koti imesema governor asifanye kila kitu chochote ambaye inaruhusiwa afanye kama gavana wa Nairobi.
So maombi yako kama wale wanasikia ni kama mkuu wa sheria, Attorney General na wenzake wangeenda kotini in the public interest.
Yes, they ask for that exception,
yes,
and they put a petition before the presiding judge on Governor Sonko's corruption case and say, can you allow the governor to appoint a deputy? So that when that goes through, the County Assembly of Nairobi passes it, and then the deputy can take charge of the county until the governor comes back.
And you're telling that Attorney General and that court, because under section, you are naming 2A.
Yes, it is under section 179, article 179, section 2A.
2A, that to operationalize work, there must be this committee which must be convened by this office.
Yes, it's the county cabinet. It is the sole decision-making organ in law for any county.
So Jonathan, so we move on to other issues. In the public interest,
yes,
you are appealing as Mueke.
Yes.
And you are saying the legal apparatus of government.
Yes.
Not the county, but of government.
Yes.
Are you saying that? Is
Yes.
the Attorney General or the legal officers of the county? Who are you saying?
Well, I'm saying even the DPP, because he's the one who has charged Governor Sonko with corruption and economic crimes, saying he should go back to the court and say, for public interest, so that we can allow Nairobi to run while the governor is out of office during his trial, can he appoint a deputy? Now, Tony, that is why I say that is because I have deep interest in Nairobi, and I'd love Nairobi to work. And that is the quickest way you can do it. There's many other ways you can do it.
But I need to zoom you down there.
But that is the quickest way you can get Nairobi functioning. Yes.
You know, I have to ask you point blank, because Kenyans or Nairobians are going to suffer.
Yes.
Yet the person in court is Sonko, not Nairobians.
Yes, they're already suffering.
So are you saying that any further denial of appointing a deputy governor goes beyond denying Sonko misuse of office, but it goes by hurting Nairobians?
Yes, and right now it's on autopilot, and so maybe Nairobians might not be feeling the heat completely. But Tony, in a few months, the budgeting process is going to begin. And then we're going to have a Finance Act. And from the Finance Act, you have an Appropriations Act. The Appropriations Act is what allows the county to spend money. That act has to be signed into law by the governor. If the governor is not available to do that job in a few months, you can't spend a single shilling by law in Nairobi, which means you can't pay your garbage collectors, so garbage will be full, which means you can't pay salaries, so nobody is going to be paid in Nairobi, which means you can't even pay for fuel for the county operation, for the county vehicles. It will come to a screeching halt.
So, Governor, you said this was the quickest prescription.
That is the quickest prescription.
Is there any other?
Yes, there's several other ways. One of which the county assembly would impeach the governor. Indeed, I've seen that there's a motion to do so. And if that happens, since there is no deputy governor, then the speaker would take over for 60 days, and Nairobi will go to an election so that Nairobians can elect their governor and their deputy governor. The third option is for the president to dissolve the county. That is a very grave option with grave consequences, because by law, again, if the president dissolves the county of Nairobi, it means that we go back to an election, but this time it's not just an election for the governor and the deputy, it's an election for even the county assembly members. So we're going to have 86 by-elections in this Nairobi, which I think is untenable in our country at the moment.
I'm asking you point blank these questions because reading the Constitution of Kenya, particularly Article 2, power is with the people.
Yes.
The supreme authority of power is with people, wananchi.
Yes.
Can the judiciary, by correctly trying Mike Sonko and giving the orders it has given for him not to operationalize or use the office, can they go further and then create a situation where the people who are supreme suffer. Are we not reaching the point where even these BBI discussions are about this kind of anomalies? Don't the people have a right to safeguard themselves? If the county can, freeze or, cease to act by the budget time, are we not looking at a crisis, Jonathan Mueke?
We are not just looking...
And this is point blank.
Yes, we are not just looking as a crisis, but Tony, point blank, we are in a crisis. We are in a constitutional crisis. The committee of experts who drafted our constitution never envisioned a situation like this in Nairobi. And it's something that we should take very, very seriously. Now, while power is given to the people have delegated that power to their elected leaders to execute it on their behalf. And who are the elected leaders who can solve the Nairobi crisis? It's the MCAs. Our MCAs in Nairobi today, if they wanted to resolve this crisis and ensure that Nairobi does not come to a screeching halt, then they would want to bring back leadership in the city. And since the court process is out of the MCA's hands, because they cannot go and tell the courts, release our governor. The governor is accused of crimes. So the courts have to deal with him first. So the MCAs need to go back to the people and say, listen, should we impeach our governor so that we can create way to elect new leadership in Nairobi? And that way, while the governor is answering to his alleged crimes, we don't know if he is innocent or not, that's for the courts. But while that process is happening, then Nairobi and its 5 million people are not suffering.
Mueke, I want to come to really the meat of the matter, and it's called corruption. It did not escape your regime with Evans Kidero. It has not escaped the regime of Mike Sonko. And I would put it to you point blank, that the problem even with the MCAs and the whole cluster of people in City Hall is it's a man-eat, man-eat society. So that nobody is going to move in the public interest because as long as where you are eating. Is this the cancer of the city? Is this the cancer of the county? And if you are in your mother's church and the bishop asked Mueke to come and be saved and speak, what would you tell Kenyans about corruption in county of Nairobi and its effect on the top, middle, and bottom leadership?
Well, I mentioned earlier that you can't fix any of the problems that you want to fix in Nairobi without money. And corruption is, actually the real definition of corruption is taking public resources for personal good. So there's no way Nairobi or any other organization or county or country, if you will, can move forward if there is rampant corruption. Yeah? So corruption can be cured, in my view, in 2 ways. Number one, through national leadership. Our president has taken leadership right now and he has started our war on corruption. And you've seen governors, ministers, all sorts of civil servants and public servants have been sent to court. Now, we don't know who's guilty or not. Again, that's for the courts.
But you escaped it. You were there. You've not been charged.
Yes.
And that's why I can ask you this question.
Yes.
Because really, for the public good, I know all investigations were done in your term.
Yes.
And I've read everything, and you have nothing, or you are not charged with anything as a person. So my question is, you can't have been divorced from the situation when you were there, and without saying who is guilty or not. Yes. Are you not saying that the money is ruining those MCAs to the top? Why are things? They are just fights every day. Yes. I mean, somebody's in, somebody's out. You don't know whether the speaker is in office.
Tony, I was saying there's 2 ways you can solve this. Your corruption question. I'm going to answer it conclusively. There's 2 ways you can solve it. One is through the war on corruption that's happening right now. The second way is through Kenyans. It's through the voters. If, Tony, you went and voted an MCA or a senator or a governor to go and represent your interests in public office and they don't do it, why do you, the same Tony, vote in the same person who's failed you the next time? And I think that's the cancer that we have. And I've seen BBI seems to address it by saying it's the software, not the hardware. It's not the environment, it's our people. It's us, Kenyans. What happens is we think that everybody else is the problem and we don't look at us. So why are we electing these bad people all the time? Tony, I'm on record saying 2017 is the lowest we've gone as a country in elections because we have the most number of goons and hooligans elected as our leaders. But they didn't elect themselves. It's Kenyans. So what do you expect? You elect a goon, then they'll go in and they'll be a goon and they'll take your public resources for their personal gain. Now, there's investigations that have been done. You asked me a question, why haven't I been put in a court of law? It's because I, as Jonathan Mueke, who served as the first deputy governor of Nairobi, did not take public resources for my own personal good. I took public resources and allocated them to solve public problems. So I did my job.
Now, let me then say, where Nairobi is, the county is in ICU and it's on life support. And you have said that there are two things that can be done, and we have heard. The MCAs can either impeach or the courts can accommodate the appointment of a deputy. Moving away from that, right now where we are, Pumwani Maternity Hospital, my garbage at home, the street lights that I depend on at night as we walk, are these things going to go off? Because, you know, I want you to tell people point blank, that's why KTL looked for you. Why, where we are now, and how many months since Sonko's hands were tied by that order. And I'm not here to advocate for him, but to advocate for a solution to the county. So are we going to reach a point where this life support machine will run out of oxygen?
Well, I've seen a few initiatives that are going on to try and save Nairobi from losing oxygen in the ICU and to keep the pulse on Nairobi going. The first one was when the speaker, a few weeks ago, Honorable Elachi called a meeting with the MCAs and called a press conference and tried to do the governor's job and said those people who have been suspended go back to work so that Nairobians can continue getting their services and infrastructure can continue being built. But that can't work because that's the job of the governor. So all that went into whatever. Yeah, but again, she tried. I saw Senator Sakaja the other day when people were rioting in Mueke over a bad road, call Kura and the Internal Security Ministry and the Transport and Roads Minister and all other officials to try and solve the problem in Mueke. That's not his job. Yeah. That's the governor's job. But point I'm trying to put across is there's Kenyans of goodwill who are trying to avert a crisis, but the law just simply doesn't allow it. You need a governor to be able to run Nairobi.
Why I'm not talking to you, and you would agree, and I can put it to you, about yes. Sakaja, there are those who are thinking he's been opportunistic because maybe he wants to be a candidate. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
But I'm not worried about Sakaja's shite show. What I'm saying is operationally, we are in ICU.
Yes.
And we are going to, this oxygen will run out.
Yes.
And you have told them.
Yes.
Now what do I miss here?
Yes.
The only two ways to deal with it. Let's move on.
Yes.
Kidero and you.
Yes.
You have been not only deputy governor, by the time you ended that 5-year term, etc., would you say that in terms of the ticket that you ran and the manifesto and all those things that you tried to do, when the term came to an end, where would you say, as Mueke, you left your mark? Where would you also fairly say the governor left his mark? Is there anything you can remember or you can claim useme kweli, hata kama we are never re-elected, we did this for Nairobi.
Yes. The first one I told you when I was delegated to ensure that revenue comes into the county to enable us to do many things in the county, I was able to bring in an electronic management system, revenue collection system, that doubled the amount of revenue that we collected. Now, what did we do with this money? TG, when we came into office, we only had 20,000 working streetlights in the whole city of Nairobi. We tripled that to 60,000 streetlights. What that did is it reduced crime by over 80%, because crime used to happen when the areas were dark. What that did is it put an extra 100 shillings in Mama Mboga's pocket, because she could now sell hamburger until midnight because there were lights. I gave you a record on healthcare. Yeah, we would now be able to go into a maternity hospital and give birth. Before, here in Nairobi, women even used to give birth in hospital, but they gave birth safely. And throughout our entire time, where we used to have tens of babies getting stolen at Pumwani, not even one baby got stolen because of the systems we put in place, including a professional board to run that hospital. Another thing that I'm really, really proud of that we did, Tony, was our bursary scheme. How bursaries were traditionally given were you give a family 5,000 shillings a term for bursary for their child. That only educates them for that term. So a child is educated first term, and second term they're out of school because you as the leader say, nilikupatia nafasi, wacha nipatie mwingine nafasi. So you've only educated a child for a term, it's not lasting. So the governor put together a bursary scheme, and we decided to split it. He said his allocation of bursaries was going to pay for scholarships. So you pick a child and pay from Form 1 to Form 4, full school fees, who have done very well, but cannot afford to go to secondary school. And on my side, I said I was going to pick children who probably have not done very well, but their parents are so poor that they cannot afford to be taken to any school. And I can tell you from the money that was allocated to me, I was able to educate 800 children, spent more than 215 or so million shillings, and we educated 800 children from Form 1 to Form 4 with that bursary scheme.
So Jonathan,
I read quite some progress.
Yes, I read somewhere in the social media.
Yes.
And please take this question with the sincerity.
Yes.
That it is intended, that you felt frustrated at the end of your term because Kidero moved toward a kitchen cabinet, and where you began well together, towards the end, you were a bit sidelined. Is it true you were sidelined towards the end? Are you bitter that you were not allowed to do more? And I'm asking because Kenyans see this deputy and governor issue. It doesn't seem to gel well. It's rarely that you find two people working together. Heart on hand, were you sidelined?
No, I was not. Were there decisions that were made without my input or without consultation? Absolutely. But there's nowhere in law or otherwise that says that a governor must consult his deputy. Were there decisions that Governor Sonko, that Governor Kidero made that I did not agree with personally as a leader? Absolutely, and quite a number of them, including appointments, including where to allocate funds. But what I did, I was bold enough to walk into Governor Kidero's office and told him, Governor, I see you have made this decision, and it's already been executed. I didn't know about it, but if it was me, I could do it differently. And I'd tell him that with a lot of respect. I didn't go into the social media or blow it up in the newspapers, but I'd walk into the governor's office and I'd let him know every time I disagreed with a decision he made. Sometimes he agreed with me, sometimes he overruled me, and we continued with life. But one thing I'd like to mention that I think is very important for our viewers, TG, is respect. Governor Kidero respected me. We have governors right now, and even in the first term, who demolished the offices of their deputies, who withdrew security and vehicles for their deputies so they don't work, who withdrew health insurance from their deputies so that if their families, wives and children got sick, they couldn't go and get treatment. Now that's personal. But Governor Kidero respected me all through.
So the relationship with a deputy and a governor, because when you vie, you run as a team.
Correct.
Would you say that should be looked at by BBI? Is there necessity for security, for some things to be added to protect the independence, or at least for a deputy governor to function better? And if, without naming it, do you think it's an area that should be looked at without being too specific?
I don't think you can legislate relationships. It's about how you relate to your deputy. This is your principal assistant. This is the person who does your job when you're not there. This is a person you should trust immensely. There is no amount of law you can write to make sure a relationship between a governor and their deputy work. Now, all these things that governors do to their deputies are already provided for in different laws or government policies or directives. For example, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission says that a deputy governor is entitled to a house, a vehicle, and security. So when the governors withdraw that from their deputies, it is impunity, and it is illegal. And that just should stop. There should be a consequence for that. And that is actually abuse of office for the governor. And one of the conditions of impeachment is abuse of office. So the governors, ideally, who do that to their deputies are candidates for impeachment.
Well, you're watching a Point Blank here at KTN News. A deputy governor, first deputy governor of Nairobi, Jonathan Mueke, says Nairobi is in the ICU and the oxygen is running out, and a remedy must be found for either the appointment of a deputy governor or for the impeachment of Sonko, and for Nairobi County to go to elections and appoint or elect a governor, because by the budgetary time, Nairobi will stop running. Jonathan Mueke says you cannot make laws about deputy governors and their bosses, governors. It is those relationships that should improve. This is KTN News.
This is KTN.